Hey, welcome. Today we're diving into a really powerful article by Dambar Singh Saud that gives a pretty startling diagnosis of what's going on in Nepal. It argues that the real source of the nation's problems, well, it's not where you might think.
Yeah, the author really doesn't pull any punches here. I mean, look at this quote. It's not just a list of problems, right? The article frames this as a national infection that's spread everywhere, from the very top of government all the way down to the media. So that's the big question, isn't it? What's the root cause of all this? Because while we see all these symptoms playing out in politics and administration, the article argues the actual disease is festering somewhere much, much deeper, a place that's absolutely fundamental to the health of the entire nation.
Okay, so first up, a nation in darkness. Let's start by just identifying the symptoms.
And this analysis paints a pretty grim picture. I mean, it describes a system where basically every single institution is compromised. As this slide lays out, political interference isn't just a problem anymore. It's become the entire operating system. And that has led to a state of, well, near anarchy, where things like merit and justice have been totally pushed to the side. All right, next section, the sickness in education. And this is where we get to the really shocking diagnosis. See, the argument is that this isn't just about corrupt politicians, it's about the very system that creates them. And here it is, the core argument of the whole piece. The root cause is extreme political interference in the nation's backbone, its education system. Think about that. The very institutions that are supposed to build the country are instead poisoning it from the inside out.
Now, to really get a handle on this problem, you have to understand this one key concept, Bhagabandha. As the slide explains, it's basically a system of political power sharing and patronage. And we're told this system has, and I quote, killed the soul of the education system. What that means is top jobs, from university deans all the way to professors, are just handed out based on who you know and which party you're loyal to, not on whether you're actually qualified.
This chart just perfectly illustrates that disconnect. On one side, you've got the ideal, right? Education as a place for ethics and merit. But on the other side, you have the reality that's being described. Universities have become these political labs that churn out loyal sycophants, or Jolie, instead of thoughtful, wise citizens.
Okay, section 3. How the sickness spreads. Because, this problem doesn't just stay in the classroom. Now we're going to see how it metastasizes, spreading across the entire country. This slide really maps out the devastating chain reaction. So it all starts in the universities, which are acting like political labs. Then, loyalty gets rewarded over actual merit. This produces graduates who, the article says, are almost programmed for patronage, not performance. And then, the final step. They go out and enter every single national institution. And what do? They just replicate the exact same corrupt cycle they came from.
And this quote just gets right to the heart of it. The very people who should be the nation's future leaders, its innovators, its judges, they're being conditioned from day one to serve a political party, not the public.
The infection runs so deep that even when genuine youth movements for change pop up, they're at risk. The article claims they often get infiltrated by these same political sycophants who then twist their purpose and turn this genuine quest for reform into just another political game.
All right, on to section 4, the path to a cure. So if the diagnosis is a sick education system, it makes sense that the cure has to start right there too. The article actually lays out what you could call a national health plan.
And we're not talking about small fixes here. The article calls for nothing less than a complete purification. The idea is that the nation's very foundation is cracked and it has to be rebuilt, starting with the education system and, just as importantly, the national consciousness.
So this analysis doesn't just diagnose the problem, it actually prescribes a pretty clear 4-step treatment plan. As you can see here, these steps are designed to systematically remove that political poison and bring back merit, ethics, and accountability to the system.
Let's zoom in on that first, absolutely crucial step, depoliticize. The argument here is unequivocal. It says all legal ties between educational institutions and political parties, things like affiliated unions for students and teachers, they have to be abolished by law and then replaced with independent professional organizations.
But, it's not just about changing laws. There's a really powerful call here to the educators themselves. As this quote puts it, they have to start seeing teaching not just as a job, but as this sacred duty of nation building. They have to awaken their own conscience.
Okay, our final section, a vision for Renaissance. So after the diagnosis and the proposed cure, what would a healthy Nepal actually look like? The article wraps up with this really hopeful vision of a national rebirth.
And the ultimate message is this incredibly powerful direct link. Nepal's Renaissance begins with the purification of its education. You fix the nation by first fixing its schools.
This comparison just lays out the two possible paths so starkly. On the left, you've got the sickness, schools as political playgrounds that are just producing sycophants. And on the right, you have this vision of health, schools as true centers of thought, creating wise, capable citizens for a nation that's been reborn.
And this really brings us to the ultimate takeaway. The nation's salvation isn't going to come from some outside force. As the article concludes, it has to come from within, from its own conscience, its own wisdom, its own honesty. And that has to start with the very people responsible for shaping young minds.
And so we're left with this question. This analysis presents a clear path, right? From diagnosis to cure. It argues that Nepal's entire future really hinges on taking one courageous step, reclaiming its education system from politics. The only question left is, who's going to be brave enough to take it?